We have just heard a classic passage from Genesis in which Adam and Eve are tempted by the crafty snake, and they give in to their temptation. Now listen to the temptation of Jesus in Matthew 4, 1 through 11. When Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil, he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter came to him and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor, and he said to him, "All these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only Him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. This is the word of the Lord. I do want to talk about both the Old Testament and New Testament passages this morning, beginning with the Adam and Eve story. God had created the world and Adam and animals, and then God prepared a garden for Adam. And God said to Adam, "Here is your mission. You live in that garden, and you till it, and you keep it. I want it to be very nice and beautiful." So Adam did. Then God saw that Adam needed a partner. The animals weren't enough. And so God caused Adam to go into deep sleep and took a rib from Adam's side and created Eve. And Adam called her woman. And so together they followed God's command and went on the mission God had given them. Till this garden, keep it, live there. Well, everything was going okay. Until one day this crafty snake came along and tempted Eve. Poor Eve, she's gotten such a bad rap for that over the years. You know, it's terrible. Well, see, God had given Adam an order. Don't eat of this tree of life. Don't eat of the tree of good and evil. So they didn't have any problem with that until the snake. The snake. Now, we know we're in the realm of ancient mythology because it's a talking snake. And the snake says to Eve, "Hey, did God tell you not to eat of that tree of good and evil?" And she says, "Yes." And this crafty snake says, "Well, you know, what God said isn't really true." "What do you mean?" "You eat it and you'll eat the fruit of that tree, you'll become like God. You won't die." Well, Eve looked at that nice tree, and the sun was shining, and the fruit looked really nice, and so she just took some fruit and ate it, and then gave some to Adam. Maybe Adam just happened to be wandering up at that time. Who knows? gave some to Adam, and he ate. And they didn't die. Was the snake right? Well, not exactly. Because upon eating the fruit of good and evil, their awareness changed. Something happened. And the way the Bible portrays it is, they suddenly became aware that they were naked. And they were embarrassed, ashamed. And so they managed to cover themselves. And then later on, God comes looking for them, and they even have to hide from God. So the temptation was about disobeying God, and then the temptation had a consequence. They learned about shame. Well, this story, it has implications for us. And one of them is that God gives us the same mission that God gave Adam and Eve. We too are to till the garden and to keep it. That is the garden of God's earth. We are given that mission. And that means from the highest levels of government to the lowest levels of tending your yard. And of course today, the big elephant in the room about tending God's garden of the earth is, of course, climate change. And I understand that some of us are climate change deniers and others are climate change advocates, and I'm not going to stand up here today and try to convince you to be either way. And the reason I want to mention that is because the atmosphere is part of God's garden too. We wouldn't have a garden without an atmosphere. And if we don't take care of the garden, we all die. Just think about a nuclear facility that gets broken and ruins the land and everything around it for years to come, and people would die if they tried to live there. So we have an important mission. But I just want to mention a couple things about the climate change issue. I haven't been thinking about this a lot, but recently, as I've been thinking about it, I've been kind of disturbed that it became such a political football. And it seems to me that people of faith who have a mission to care for the earth ought to try to take it out of the realm of politics. It makes no sense to me whatsoever that this should be a political issue where the political leaders tell everybody on this side of the aisle, here's what you think, and we think we really know our own mind, but really we're just reflecting what we're told to think. Then everybody over here thinks the opposite, and both can't be true, and nobody ever critiques what's going on. That's a little bit crazy, isn't it? Besides, it could possibly be true that half the country, millions and millions of people believe exactly the same thing. And then the other half believe exactly the opposite. How stupid is that? God wants us to go on a mission, and so the rational thing to do is examine the evidence. We ought to have a big conference right here in the church and invite experts and look at the evidence. This is a scientific issue. It's not a political issue. So that's one thing that kind of bothers me. Then the other thing I got to thinking about, and I'm really not trying to advocate to anybody, but just a personal experience, I got to thinking about our scientific understanding and technology. And I was remembering, and it was a year ago or a little more, a little less, maybe around a year ago, where we had the technological capability of building this little machine, little machine. And we can put it on a rocket, boom, fire it into space and have it, and then the rocket drops off and there that thing goes. Amazingly fast. millions of miles. And we can control it the whole way. And we're headed somewhere with it. There was this big old meteor, this big old giant rock flying through outer space at thousands of miles an hour, millions of miles from the earth, and we can find it with that machine. And we can land it on that thing, which we did. And then in landing, it kind of got messed up somehow, technologically. So we lifted it off a little bit, and keep in mind that it's traveling thousands of miles an hour, millions of miles from the earth, and we lift it up a little bit and bring it back down, and then it worked. And then, to top it all off, it sent signals back to Earth in real time. I don't understand it. If you're going to be a denier, why not be a science denier? Because that's just beyond our imagination, that alone. And then we've got telescopes out in space, and now they're so strong that we've seen further than we ever have, and have discovered a whole new solar system recently with the sun, littler sun than ours. How they know that, you math whizzes have to tell me about it. Like what, 7 planets? And then it raises the specter of them maybe having conditions that would have supported life. And so then the big question of life in the universe other than on Earth gets raised. Isn't that amazing? So I've been, we see all these scientific surprises seemingly on a regular basis now. And the thing that it made me think was that with all of this amazing expertise and amazing technology, in which we're dealing with stuff millions of miles from Earth, it made it seem like measuring our atmosphere and the temperature of our Earth seemed like child's play. It was like, we can do that with one hand tied behind our backs now. So, anyway, we have a mission, and we need to take it seriously for all the earth. And let us look at real facts and not be, and I'm talking either side of the aisle, let us not just be told what to think about this important issue, because what God has told us is more important. But that brings me to another facet of the mission. Now, I think God has given us the mission of tilling and keeping our spiritual garden, our inner world, and our communal world, because they are all mixed up together and you can't really separate them out. And so we have to care for our inner being and our relationships and our participation in the world. We have to care whether we know what it means to forgive, for example. And we have to care about our spiritual health, to live like God intends us to live, and in ways that do not harm ourselves and others. And so we must follow God's lead and command and till our own spiritual and communal gardens. And that's why we get together, and why we talk about these things, and why we study the Bible, and why we care for others, because God has given us the mission of loving. And if you don't tend to loving, you don't just automatically love. Well, that brings me to temptation. That crafty snake inside of us tempts us to stop fulfilling the mission that God sends us on. And then when we give in to our temptation, we reap the consequence of shame. There was a beautiful, beautiful illustration of shame in the paper this week. Now, everybody's heard about Uber at this point, haven't they? You know, they're transforming the taxi industry the world over. Well, the CEO, Travis Kalanick, made a boo-boo. He got videoed treating an employee, a driver, inappropriately. Now, here he was in one of his own Uber cars being taxied somewhere, and there were two young women on either side of him, and he's a pretty young guy still. And now he's a billionaire, you know, created Uber. So there's nothing untoward going on at all, and the whole ride is being videoed from the front. I guess there's a little camera up there around the mirror. And so that video became viral. The driver apparently showed it to the other drivers, and then it got out on the internet, so anybody can see that YouTube now. Such a mixed blessing, these videos. We couldn't do without them now, and we shouldn't. But anyway, they're driving along, and they're all talking in the back seat, and nothing special's going on. But then at some point the women get out, they've reached their destination, and then it's just Kalanick and the driver. And so the driver finally stops, and before the CEO can get out of the car, the driver turns around and starts confronting him. Turns out that the driver had been an early Uber driver, and at that time they had to buy a big fancy luxury automobile, and it had put him in a lot of debt. And then as time has passed, they have changed the rules, and now there's all kinds of cars, and prices have gone down, etc. And this guy feels like he has been left behind as all these changes happened, and his CEO got wealthy, and so he basically confronts him about changing prices and how he's been left behind. Well, the CEO, I guess, is taken by surprise, and he starts responding. But the way he responds is not very nice. He doesn't go berserk or anything, but he's kind of a jerk. And he starts belittling the driver, who needs to be more mature, etc., etc. And then that's the end of the video. Now, here's the shame part. Once he saw that video, the CEO wrote his employees a message entitled "A Profound Apology." Here's part of what it says. To say that I am ashamed is an extreme understatement. My job as your leader is to lead. And that starts with behaving in a way that makes us all proud. This is the first time I've been willing to admit that I need leadership help, and I intend to get it. And we presume he's in the process of finding that help. But that's what happens when we give in to those big temptations and disobey God and go in another direction. And then what happens when you have given in to temptation? Well, you get caught. And then when you get caught, you're totally embarrassed. And shame is like embarrassment times 20. You know, it's a lot deeper. And you might feel guilty too. You know, there's an old saying about the difference between, how you tell the difference between guilt and shame. In guilt, you do something bad by breaking a rule or a law. You have a condition of guilt then, and maybe you need punishment. But in shame, it's not that you do something bad, it's that you feel that you are bad in your core. Not only deserving of punishment, but maybe even deserving of death. And so shame is a pretty serious issue. And so that raises a question for us. How do we fight against the temptations that will come to us as human beings? And that brings us to Jesus. Because Jesus himself had his temptations, having to do with whether he was going to follow God's mission or not. He had been baptized, and there he was, the beginning of his mission of love and healing and teaching the people about God. And the first thing he does is go right there into the wilderness to be alone. And so the first thing that Jesus teaches us about dealing with our temptations is that we have got to find the time and the space to be alone. Just like last week I talked about having our spiritual mountains. Well, the image this time is the wilderness. Place of being alone. And then when you're alone, what do? Well, Jesus is fasting, engaging in a spiritual discipline to give him the self-discipline in order to do something very hard, and that is to take a look at his own self. He knows what God wants him to do, and yet he also knows that he's a very bright and talented person, and he could have fame, wealth, power. He could have it all. That's a temptation. And so he didn't just say, "Oh, no, that's not bad. I'm forget you. I'm going to do what's right." No. Sometimes, you read this passage, and Matthew, more than any other Gospels, lays that time of temptation out in this big dialogue, between the devil and Jesus. And they're quoting scripture at each other. He's in a real debate with himself. And 40 days and 40 nights. It wasn't easy to deal with his temptations. And that is a model for us. This whole season of Lent is modeled on Jesus 40 days and 40 nights facing his temptations. And just like Moses went up on the mountain to be with God for 40 days and 40 nights. And so here we have Lent, 40 days. And so it's time for us to find our quiet and safe places, and to have the courage to take a look at our own spiritual gardens and at God's mission for us, and to take the time to really deal with it, and don't dismiss it and take it lightly. Because we are human beings. And God created us so that we have temptations. We could say, "God, wish you hadn't done that." But in God's own wisdom, that's the way it is. In fact, in a bunch of the scriptures, Jesus uses temptation to try to teach people good lessons. And we can all learn if we look at our own selves and with God's help. And so in our little quiet spaces, our own wildernesses, we can have conversation with the Lord and put our own temptations right there in the conversation and ask for God's help. And see where we come out. And one of the values of taking the time to reflect is this, that it helps us take off our blinders, And part of the nature of temptations, whatever they may be, is that everything looks so good, just like it did to Eve. That tree and that fruit looks so shiny. Wealth, power, fame, it looks so wonderful. But you block out everything that's hurtful and harmful. And it's just what we do. We block it out. So if you take the time then to engage your own self and to talk to God about it in the privacy of your own safe space, then you have a chance to say, wait a minute, I got to take those blinders off. And what are the consequences of my behavior? Because nobody likes shame. And God doesn't want us to go down that road of shame. Being found out, being exposed. How about that imagery of nakedness? Being exposed in our behavior. God wants us to live in a better freedom. God's ways are healthy and good ways. And this Lenten time is a special time for us. For if we engage in that kind of discipline, it will be our way of preparing to celebrate the resurrection on Easter. This whole time period is our spiritual preparation to celebrate the resurrection. And so, enter the wilderness, fast, face your temptation, and trust the Lord to help you. Just say no. Grow spiritually in this way. Prepare yourself for the greatest of God's surprises. Amen.